Hello and welcome to Miniature Adventures. I'm Big Lee, and this week I want to discuss how to solo wargame getting started. So welcome to today's video where we're diving deep into the world of solo wargaming. Now, while I've touched on this topic before, focusing on mechanics and rules that allow you to adapt your favourite wargames for solo play, today's discussion takes a slightly different approach. We're going to explore the practicalities of setting up and playing a solo wargame, what you truly need to make it an enjoyable and engaging experience. Whether you're a seasoned solo player or someone curious about taking the plunge, I hope you'll find some useful tips here. So at its core, every tabletop wargame begins with a play-in surface. This is the foundation of your battlefield, and while the ideal might be a sprawling 6 by 4 foot table or even bigger, the reality is that not everyone has that kind of space. And I can definitely relate to that. I don't have a dedicated gaming table either. My operations room doubles as my workspace on some days, and my table is a modest 5 foot by 3.5 foot table surface. It's just big enough for me to accommodate some games, but when it's not in use, it serves as my work desk. So if you're in a similar position, don't worry. A dining table or a large desk can work out just fine. As long as you have a flat, stable surface for most of your troops to march across, you're good to go. Now, don't let the lack of a perfect tabletop stop you. Wargaming is about creativity, and that extends to your setup. However, simply having a table isn't enough, at least not in my humble opinion. Solo wargaming depends a lot on mental energy. You're not only strategizing for both sides, but you're also keeping track of the rules, making decisions and managing the flow of the game. It's a rewarding experience, but it can be very taxing. And that's why having a dedicated distraction-free space is so important. If you can, carve out a room or a corner where you can focus entirely on your game. For me, this became possible only after I set up this operations room 5 years ago. Before that, solo wargaming felt nearly impossible with the constant interruptions of daily life. And if you can't manage a separate room, try to create a space where you won't be disturbed too much by family members, TV and all the other daily distractions. Now, one of the greatest advantages of solo wargaming is the ability to play at your own pace. Unlike group games, which typically need to be completed in one sitting, a solo game can unfold over many hours, days, even weeks. This flexibility is invaluable, especially when you hit a mental block or simply just need a break. But here's the catch. To fully embrace the flexibility, you need a space where your game can remain undisturbed. So if your table doubles as a dining surface or a workspace, this might not be feasible. However, if you can manage it, leaving your game set up in a place that allows you to step away and return to it again later with fresh energy and focus. It also lets you savour the game, taking your time to consider tactical decisions and without feeling frustrated. It gives you a chance to pull back from the game, check rules and learn as you go. Now, of course, not everyone has this luxury, and that's okay. If your space is limited, consider breaking your game into smaller sessions, perhaps a turn or two at a time. This approach is particularly useful when learning new rules or testing a scenario. Flexibility is key, both in mindset and in how you approach your gaming schedule. Now, for anyone considering solo wargaming for the first time, my advice is to start with a really good book. There's a wealth of resources out there, and reading up on solo wargaming can provide valuable insights and inspiration. Now, two classics I'd instantly recommend are Solo Wargaming by Donald Featherstone and Programmed Wargame Scenarios by Charles S. Grant. Now, these books opened my eyes to the possibilities of solo play and helped me develop my own approach to how I convert games for playing solo. That being said, there's no need to rigidly follow anyone else's method. Wargaming is a creative hobby, and part of the fun is experimenting and finding what works best for you. Take ideas from different sources, blend them with your own and adapt them to fit the rule set you're using. The goal is to create a system that makes solo play enjoyable and intuitive. Now, while this video focuses on solo play, it's worth mentioning that wargaming is of course an inherently social hobby. If you have the opportunity to game with others, I encourage you to take it. Playing with friends or a local club can be incredibly rewarding, offering camaraderie and the chance to learn from fellow enthusiasts. However, solo wargaming has its own unique benefits, and I've discussed them before. It's a fantastic way to learn new rules, experiment with tactics and hone your skills on the tabletop. Even seasoned players can benefit from spending time alone with their armies, exploring strategies that might not be feasible in a competitive setting. So to summarise, here's what I consider to be the essentials of successful solo wargaming. You need a good playing surface. Large flat table is ideal, but any stable surface will do. You need a dedicated space, and if possible find a quiet area where you can focus and leave your game set up. You need time and flexibility. Embrace the ability to play at your own pace, even if that means breaking your game into smaller sessions. And you need a learning mindset. Read up on solo wargaming techniques, but don't be afraid to experiment. And of course, above all, you need a love of the hobby. Ultimately, solo wargaming is about your passion for the game. Let that drive your creativity and problem solving. Now, as always, I'd love to hear from you. What are your tips for successful solo wargaming? Now, this isn't about the mechanics of how to adapt a game for solo play. That's a topic for another video. But rather, the practicalities of solo wargaming. What advice would you give to someone just starting out? Have you encountered challenges or found creative solutions? As always, please share your experiences in the comments below. And if you are interested in my earlier video on the mechanics of solo wargaming, you can find that link up here. So, a hobby update. The week started well with another remote game hosted by Jonathan Freitag. For this game, 5 of the rejects joined Jonathan for the Battle of Mikitagahara, which took place in 1572. The battle took place during Japan's Sengoku period between Takeda Shingen and Tokugawa Ieyasu. Can't get the pronunciations right. As Takeda moved his army south into Totomi province, Ieyasu dismissed the advice of his generals and prepared to intercept the Takeda army. Now, although outnumbered in both foot and horse to Takeda, Ieyasu figured an early strike against the Takeda vanguard might catch the enemy by surprise and put the enemy off balance. Unfortunately, his confidence was ungrounded and the Tokugawa army was roundly defeated. Ieyasu survived the battle and managed to regroup, eventually becoming a key player in the unification of Japan. Now, in our game, I teamed up with Steve to play the underdog, Ieyasu, while Richard and Ray controlled Takeda's much larger army. I would like to say that Steve and I were able to reverse history, but sadly that was not to be. I controlled the centre, including Ieyasu himself, and by the end of the game my command was almost entirely destroyed and Ieyasu was dead on the battlefield. Hopefully by the time this video is released, Jonathan will have published his write-up of the game, and I highly recommend taking a look at his blog, the Palouse Wargaming Journal, for this and other games that is run in the series. Now, at this point I would like to say that I've got a lot of other things done this week, but I've had a visit from norovirus or something very similar, and it's wiped me out for a couple of days. So as you can see, I've managed to get some movement bases prepared and ready for the painting challenge, but that's about all I've done this week. The call for the participants to the annual competition for the painting challenge went out a few days ago, and I've of course thrown my hat in the ring. There's still 4 weeks to go until it actually starts, but I expect I'll be busy getting as much preparation, cleaning and as much stuff primed as I can before the starting pistol fires towards the end of December. So that's it for this week. As I say, the illness has knocked out a couple of days, so that's it. As always, please join the conversation in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe and share. So until next week, stay safe, keep gaming, and of course, keep rolling high.